I'm Kelly Rudy. On this edition of ParaNet BizCast, we will be speaking to Tim Sheehy, President of the Milwaukee Metropolitan Association of Commerce. You're talking about improving the climate in general, and taxes have a big part of that. Can you give us an update on the current legislative environment?
Yeah, I think Wisconsin has had a reputation as a high-tax state. I don't think that's helpful, but like anything else, I think that if you're a manufacturer here, you're weighing the value of the taxes that you're paying against the quality of the services, and those services, again, are what does my infrastructure look like? Can I get product and material out of here? What kind of workforce am I seeing coming in? And if that gets out of balance, then I think people tend to look elsewhere. So high taxes are a big issue. They're not the only issue, but the bigger question is, are we getting the value for that investment out? And I think a lot of manufacturers question that. I think there were some changes in the last state budget without getting too deep into taxes. Combined reporting is a tax increase that cost companies about $215 million in the state budget. And that impacts companies like manufacturers. Harley-Davidson, for example, paid a $22.5 million charge in, I think, the third quarter due to that change in taxes. That's not conducive to helping us grow manufacturing. And so to the governor and the state legislature, I think the message has to be clear. If you want to grow the region, you have to pay particular attention to the types of taxes that are going to make this a difficult place to manufacture in.
So do you think they're going to do that, though? Is that possible for Wisconsin to do?
Yeah, I think, again, we've seen some changes. We do have a tax break that was instituted in the mid-1970s here and has been expanded. It's called the M&E exemption for machinery and equipment. So I think there are some advantageous tax breaks for manufacturers here. But I think probably even more important than taxes is our ability to produce people with the skills and the aptitude to go into manufacturing. We have some really high-paying jobs on manufacturing floors here in this community. The average wage for manufacturing jobs here is $54,000. It's well above the average wage in the region. And so the question is really for manufacturers, will we continue to prepare people with the kinds of skills and talent that they need to compete?
Going kind of with the legislative side
Sure.
a little bit more, we've been seeing a lot of different issues come up between the 9 paid sick days, the Employee Free Choice Act, and the cap and trade issues. Do you think that these things are going to continue to impact where these things are going? And I know that MMAC has had a large portion to do, obviously, with some of these things. So if you can speak to that.
Sure. You know, part of our role is representing our members, which include manufacturers, and advocating for public policy that makes this a better place for them to manufacture from. And having the city of Milwaukee, through a referendum, impose 9 paid sick days in a very rigid format does not help employers who are looking for flexible ways of dealing with their employers. So that's in court right now. We won the first round in court. I'm hopeful we'll win the second round because if it passes, it's, again, not helpful to a business climate that's going to be attractive to manufacturers.
Well, specifically, how is it not attractive?
How is it not attractive? Because you know, an employer needs flexibility to negotiate and deal with their employees. And there are a lot of creative ways in which an employer will work with their employees to make a work environment that works for the company and works for the employees. Having the government step in and say, there's a rigid system and here's what you have to provide is not conducive to a flexible, high-quality work environment, which is what manufacturers and all employers need. So it imposes a mandate that is costly and I think inhibits the ability of a company to function. The other 2 issues that you talked about, the Employee Free Choice Act and cap and trade, are both federal issues. So that requires us to work with our congressional delegation and to impress upon them, in the case of the Employee Free Choice Act, what an impact that would have on companies in Wisconsin, and cap and trade in particular would put Wisconsin at a competitive disadvantage. We are a state that doesn't have a lot of natural resources outside of water. And so if we're going to compete, we can't have the federal government imposing costs on a state that uses a lot of coal, which is just going to drive up the costs of power for our manufacturing base.